Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Alain. It's Saturday. We're going to talk about a couple books. I recently finished The Frontier Stoic by Mark Hatmaker. Excellent book that we're going to talk about this morning. I also recently finished The Winning Edge, Fueling and Training the Body for Peak Performance by Jack Medina and Roy Vartabedian. Not sure just how to pronounce his name. Those are the two books we're going to talk about today. Drinking out of an Avengers mug this morning. Reading can help make you a superhero. I do these shows on Saturday, talk about books, talk about reading to encourage you to read more. Read paper books, read Kindle books, listen to audio books. Listen, read for enjoyment. Listen, read for education. So much out there. Just trying to encourage you to read more and show you a book or two that you might want to include in your reading. This was an older book on the shelf, The Winning Edge, Fueling and Training the Body for Peak Performance. Good, solid book on exercise and nutrition, to help your athletic performance, whether you're an athlete or just a weekend warrior and you want to stay in shape for those kind of activities. We have stuff about training myths and facts. We have stuff about maintaining fluid, training the body for peak performance, achieving total fitness, different training systems to get stronger, a specific training for different things, stuff on kids and muscle soreness and injuries. Just a good basic book about a lot of things to help you train better and get better performance. So, I enjoyed the book. A lot of it wasn't new to me because, I've been reading and studying this kind of stuff for years. I used to be certified as a personal trainer. I let those certifications lapse and didn't keep up with that. But this was a good, solid book. I'm probably just going to donate this one off now because I have better manuals and resources that I'll probably keep more appropriate for what I'm doing right now. But this was a good book. The other book this morning, this was an excellent book, The Frontier Stoic by Mark Hatmaker. Life lessons from those who lived a life. Now, if you're familiar with Mark, which I've been familiar with Mark for years, I have a bunch of DVDs back there on the shelf and a number of books, all on martial art and self-defense related topics. This is completely different from all of those. And this is actually sort of a collection of different things that he wrote in his blog and online writing. There are no page numbers, and there really aren't chapters, so to speak. It's a lot of, again, essays and different things on Stoic topics, how to live, taking quotes and passages from Native American history, frontier history, older resources, and like he says, people who actually lived life, not people that just sat and read about it or dreamed about it, but we're actually out there doing stuff. And I just found so many things in this book to think about. And I would bet if I read this book a year from now, different sections would affect me differently, and I would think differently about it because, that's how life goes as we progress. So there were sections in this book that really made me think. There were other passages and things that not as much today, but those passages might make me think a little bit more if I read this book again later. So just a really good book about thinking about life and living. He put stuff about himself and his life, his wife who went through the brain tumor and different things. So there's little sections in there about doing that and just living life. And so can't say enough about that. This book just had so much in it that was thought-provoking, meaningful. And if you put it into practice, like the people he wrote about putting it into practice, definitely could make your life better. I'm going to talk more about this book, but I'm going to do it with Mark on here with me. I'm going to get Mark on Coffee with Alain. Now that the hand's getting better and I can actually type a little and some of the editing is a little easier so I can have longer shows, I'm going to get back to having guests again. Mark is going to be one of those guests. I'm going to get him on here, and we're going to talk more about this book and more about his philosophy. So I'm not going to say much more about it today, but I will get him on, and we will be talking about this book again, because I just found it an excellent read. And so many of those passages just make you stop and think, how can you apply it to your life and make your life better? I want to say good morning to Thad, who's here and said good morning. Thank you, Thad. Appreciate that. Dixon said books, books, and more books. That's right, Dixon. And this last week, I got rid of over 100 books that I didn't read. Going through the shelves, looking at my shelves, if I read 200 books a year, I'm not going to live long enough to read every book, especially because I keep buying new ones that catch my eye. So I went through and I found over 100 books. It's like, I don't really want to read that. I don't think I'm going to read that. Donate them off. But this one, I'm not donating because I'll probably read it again. And again, we're going to have Mark on here to talk about it. Everybody, those are the two this week. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about a movie, true story, Roof Man. Went and saw that last night. It was an interesting movie. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Also going to send out the newsletter tomorrow. So if you go to enjoylifesafely.com, you can get signed up for that newsletter if you haven't done so yet. While you're there, check out the blog page. Check out the books that are for sale. Download all the free stuff that you can and check out the courses that go with some of that free stuff. The courses are pretty cheap. You could spend more on a pizza. 2 pizzas tonight would cost you more than 2 of the courses there on how to get back up when life knocks you down and how to stay more safe in this crazy world. You ought to get those. You ought to stay safe while you're enjoying more of life. That's what we're all about. EnjoyLifeSafely.com. Make it a spectacular Saturday. We'll be back tomorrow talking about Roof Man.